Let's talk franchise quarterbacks now, MJ. A lot of guys right now, younger, trying to prove themselves to their given franchises. I got 6 names here. Are you buying or selling these franchise QBs heading into 2026? Number 1, CJ Stroud. You can give me a yes or a no, explain why. For me, I'm saying no. The traits I just can't unsee are the poor decision-making, the inaccuracy, and the terrible, and maybe this is just like recency bias, but the terrible playoff performance that I watched in 2025. I just can't get it out of my mind.
It's so. CJ Stroud is a victim of his front office. His front office got cocky, and they thought, okay, he was so great his rookie year. Who cares about the offensive line? Who cares? Doesn't really matter. Offensive line, defensive line. It don't matter at all. And clearly, it don't matter how great of a rookie season you had. What these DCs do is they turn that tape on. They see what your strengths are. They see what you need to work on. And they adjust accordingly. So you have that going on. And then you guys trade away your best offensive lineman, Laramie Tunsil, and he goes to the Commanders, and you're still not really investing in the offensive line the way you should. I mean, you got my guy Reed Blankenship. There was no problem with the defense, but y'all need an offensive line. So I think the reason why I would sell on CJ Stroud isn't really about his ability, because I think talent-wise, he's one of the top 10 most talented quarterbacks in the game. But when you talk about being, when you're around certain friends and they bring you down and you have that type of situation, when you're with the franchise that are not surrounding you with the pieces for you to be great, I can't buy on that. I have to sell. And it's sad because he's kind of like a victim of his own greatness, because he done had a super high, super great rookie year, and you haven't ever reached that pinnacle, since that point. You look at a guy like Bryce Young, his stock is damn near over CJ Stroud.
It's right there.
But it's not even because CJ Stroud is so much worse than Bryce Young or just fell off the cliff to where Bryce Young is over. It's all about meeting those expectations. So with Bryce Young, it's they wasn't even expected to make the playoffs. They make it, and then now it's okay, some folks are higher on Bryce Young than CJ Stroud. Think about a couple years ago, you would have been called crazy to think that. Now it's okay. Let's see what happens next season. So all in all, bro, I would say I would sell on CJ Stroud, and it's not even more about him, but about the roster around him. And they'll talk about that playoff game. He was terrible. I had the Texans actually, getting to the AFC Championship game. I believe with any competent quarterback, they would have gotten. And that's not me saying CJ Stroud didn't waste a generational defense, but man, that front office has a big part in the regression of Stroud.
I remember watching, and there was a game, I think it was the Titans, and you couldn't even raise the chip to your mouth to eat, and Jeffrey Simmons was all over the guy. It was sick. So I'm selling on him, and part of it is the failure on Houston's behalf as well. But I do think, and maybe part of it is just he's uncomfortable now. It's always in the back of your mind. You don't have any protection. Nico Collins is damn near on IR every other week. It's hard to get that consistency. Tank Dell blew out his knee. It's a gong show there. You can't get the consistency. You're uncomfortable. Maybe that plays into the decision-making, absolutely. But there have been things I've watched, and I'm just damn, I don't think I can buy into that right now as a franchise quarterback. But I'm not writing him off. He can find a spot elsewhere, and maybe it is Houston. It's just that defense has been way too good, and for the offense to look that bad, that trash for a few years now, it's head-scratching. So, like I said, I'm selling. You mentioned a guy in Bryce Young. That's my number 2 guy. Bryce Young, I'm leaning like maybe. I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm leaning sell only because he's so damn inconsistent. I saw him on a game-to-game basis last year genuinely look elite and be an elite playmaker against the Rams in both games, regular season and the playoffs. He was phenomenal, and year one with the real roster, yes, he made the playoffs. Yes, he almost won a playoff game. Underdog playoff game, by the way. But as a franchise QB, if you define it as someone you genuinely see taking your team to the Super Bowl, which is what I envision a franchise quarterback being, it's a no. At least right now it's a no. He's just too inconsistent.
Too inconsistent, bro. And you're looking at like these young quarterbacks. It's so like, it's crazy what a year can do. Because one season you can be like, man, like, this guy is just like one of them ones. The next season, and we're on Bo Nix, right?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. So Bryce Young is somebody that, again, last season, everybody's out on him. You saw a couple of flashes, but like everybody's really like, all right, the Texans fleeced him. Man, oh man, Bryce Young, he's not that guy. And then now this season, part of this is because of how bad the Buccaneers were down the stretch. And it makes me think, right? Because if the Buccaneers weren't so god-awful down the stretch,
right, yeah,
the Panthers would have never even had a chance to make the playoffs, right? So part of Bryce Young's success, part of the Panthers' success last season was the fact that Baker Mayfield was playing terrible. Now, could that be injury? Regardless, he was out there. He was terrible at the end of the season, and the Buccaneers just crashed out. Now, you're looking at this. Yes, in the playoff game, Bryce Young, he showed up. He definitely showed up, and he gave his team a chance. But part of my issue with Bryce Young, and if we're being honest, Bo Nix has this tendency too, where they can play bad for 3 quarters. 3 quarters, they are god-awful. Come the fourth quarter, they have a game-winning drive, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this guy is great. So I think with Bryce Young, he's got to be more consistent. It could be one game where he looks like a top 10 quarterback. The next game, he's a bottom 10 quarterback. Ask the Falcons. They have no idea which quarterback they're facing because one minute he's amazing, the next minute he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. So if I'm going to keep it real, JV, I would say I'm selling because I can't bank on this guy to consistently be great. I can bank on him to be great, sometimes, maybe every other week. Yeah, for sure. But can I bank on you as a franchise guy, week in, week out, that you are the guy that gets this team over the hump, that gets this team to make a deep postseason run? And they got some talent. They have some studs on that defense. And then offensively, even like last season, that offensive line was pretty damn good. You got Tet, who is showing, oh my gosh, he is a stud. You had that 1-2 punch with, Bubba, and you had, Rico Dow. Obviously, he's, going on to another team. But Bryce, he got some talent. He got some talent around him. But again, I can't buy it right now. I need to see more consistency from the young quarterback.
You got to. And I think he's going into year 4, and that's kind of the concern for me. And you talk about a guy like Bo Nix too, MJ. What about Bo Nix? Bo Nix, the next guy up, I'm buying only because, and listen, like, the inconsistency, it's true. He's also been very inconsistent, and he plays down to the level of competition, like I said earlier on in the episode. But as a playmaker, he's underrated, and I think the playoff game that I watched very closely as a Bills fan really convinced me that he is the guy. I mean, I think he should have been playing in a Super Bowl this season had he not been injured. Yes, there's consistency issues. Yes, he starts out season slow, and you never know really what you're going to get from him. But from what I've seen in my pure definition of can you get us to a Super Bowl, he can do that. And I do think with the progression rate that he's been going on, it's like, yeah, like I'm probably buying. I know that QB class was pretty insane. You had your Caleb's, your Jaden Daniels, your Drake Mays. Bo Nix, he doesn't have that star potential, I don't think, but I do think he is a guy that if you're Sean Payton right now, you're looking and you're saying, yeah, like I'm buying on it.
Bro, out of that 2024 QB draft class, there is an argument that Bo Nix is number 1 or number 2 based off just the resume, based off the winning, based off, folks forget, because Jaden Daniels was just so great his rookie year, Bo Nix had 29 passing touchdowns to 12 interceptions in his rookie season. And he followed that up with 25 touchdowns passing to 11 interceptions. So he improved, I believe, just off the odds as he improved as a passer. All the stats might not show, but off the odds as he improved. The thing about Bo Nix that reminds me a little bit about Brock Purdy is that he has sneaky athleticism. Sneaky. And you wouldn't think it, but I think in order for Bo Nix to really fulfill his full potential is he has to lean more into the athleticism that he has. He is sneaky quick. He has some strength to him. And when he gets downhill, it's not too many guys that can stop him. And so I would say I would buy it. Not only because he's shown in the biggest moments that he performs at his apex, but also the talent he has around him. I think folks sometimes knock how much a true number 1 wide receiver can change the play of the quarterback and the entire team. You saw with Josh Allen, as soon as he got Stephon Diggs, he became a completely different quarterback. When my guy Jalen Hurts got A.J. Brown, you go from a 9-win season, a wild card exit, to the following season, you are an MVP candidate, an All-Pro, and you lead your team to the Super Bowl. That's the type of impact a wide receiver 1 can bring to your team. Shout out A.J. Brown. So with the Broncos, now Courtland Sutton, who was your wide receiver 1, but everybody knew he's a lower tier wide receiver 1. Well, if you have Courtland Sutton as your wide receiver 2, ooh, now you're talking about one of the better wide receiver 2s in the league. You're looking at Courtland Sutton, and now this Broncos offense really, really is cooking with some. So I think Bo Nix is a damn good quarterback. He's at the very least a top 3 quarterback in his draft class that was already stacked. But I'm buying, and I think this Broncos team is set to be a legit contender in the AFC.
Well, you want to talk about handpick too. Sean Payton went out there and picked his guy. He got rid of Russ, said, get out. We don't want you. Restructure your contract if you're not playing for us. Booted him out the damn building and brought in Bo Nix. And ever since, it's been success. And I know people talk about the average depth of target and he's dumping off balls. And I get it. But you look at some of his tape and the throws he makes down the field, it's pretty impressive. And I think you look at other quarterback situations in the league, and I'm buying on this. A guy you also mentioned, MJ, what about Baker Mayfield? Now, I know he's kind of on that mid-sized contract. I think he's getting $33 million per year at this point. I'm selling, and I love Baker Mayfield, and that's why it hurts. I love his style of play. I love the physicality, absolutely. And he'll go on stretches, MJ, where he dominates, and he will win you comeback game after comeback game on a final drive. He did it for the first 7 games of last season. But the inconsistency is his fatal flaw. And when it comes to the playoffs, I need a guy I can absolutely trust to at least protect the football. And at this point, Baker, who I believe is now turning 30 years old, kind of is who he is. And he's resurrected his career, and he's made his money, and he's a great quarterback in the league. But as a franchise guy, I'm looking at a guy like Bo Nix, who just took the Broncos deep into the playoffs, should have made the Super Bowl. I'd much rather have him as my franchise QB.
The tipping point for the Buccaneers season was when they lost to the Lions.
Yep, exactly.
And it was frankly a blowout. It wasn't even close. Since that game, since that loss, the Buccaneers last season went 3-7 in their last 10 games. Now, some have said, and somebody that knows the best, Levante David, he said, man, Baker was playing with all these injuries and he was just doing everything he could to be there for us. And I think there is some facts in that. And obviously every quarterback is going through some injuries. I'm just sorry. Like at the end of the season, what quarterback do you not know going through something? Ask Josh Allen.
Yeah,
And I
they're
ain't trying to
banged up.
compare him to Josh Allen, but damn it, Josh Allen was going through a lot of stuff and they fighting through it. Like everybody's fighting through something. But I do think that you weren't able to see Baker at his apex because of the injuries, right? And some of the fourth quarter interceptions, he's a gunslinger. So he'll take a lot of chances. Sometimes it works, and when it works, he's amazing, right? Talk about that win over the Seahawks. You're looking at him like, man, like, could this guy be MVP? On the other side, it's okay. Well, you can't say that this guy's MVP in September and then he goes 3-7 his last 10 games. Well, I guess it would be what 3-8 his last 11 games of the season and then be crickets. So you got to be fair in that aspect. I will say I it's interesting because Mike Evans leaves now. So now somebody got to be that wide receiver one. Could it be Ibuka? Does Chris Godwin, enter that role? But I think that this is probably the toughest one for me. His contract definitely helps him because given his production, that's a very, very team-friendly contract he has. And the division is terrible. So I'll say I'll buy low on Baker Mayfield because the Buccaneers can very well win that sorry division. And Baker Mayfield in playoff games, I know it best. He lit up my Eagles, lit them up. And he got outplayed by Jay Daniels, but even that was still a tough game, last postseason. So I'll buy low on Baker Mayfield. And I think it's super, super low, his stock right now. But he kind of hit rock bottom last season. You would think the only way is up.
Yeah, and I think it's just the age that concerns me. And if we can just get some consistency, because there were points last year, like I watched the Dolphins game where he was just throwing ill-advised picks, and it was like, man, you lost the game for the team. Or like you said, that Lions game, he was just airmailing pass after pass. But if he got it on a consistent basis, I love him. I love him. I love the physicality, and I don't know how long that lasts either. Like eventually that falls off in your mid-30s as a quarterback. I can't stress it enough. Like, I love him as a player. It's just, as a franchise QB, do I think he takes the Bucs to a Super Bowl? I don't know. I don't know, especially with the state of the NFC right now. Talking about NFC quarterbacks, MJ, we got two more here. Caleb Williams. And I'm saying yes, absolutely. The talent is through the roof. My only concern right now is the accuracy, which has to be cleaned up eventually. You could argue the decision-making in that playoff performance, but I think a lot of that was just ballsy, kind of overconfident play calling from Ben Johnson as well when they didn't need to drive the ball all the way down the field in one pass. He's easily been the most successful Bears quarterback through the first 2 years of his Bears career. So, yeah, I'm buying for sure on Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I would buy on Caleb Williams, and he has the chance to become the MVP of the league. I think that Bears defense is sorry as hell. So one thing that you can bank on is that the Bears are going to be in some shootouts next season. And with Ben Johnson calling plays and Caleb Williams, I mean, you kind of saw some foreshadowing in the playoff game against the Packers, just how great Caleb Williams can be on a game-to-game basis. His thing, you got to be consistent. And he's a home run hitter. But there's sometimes you got to just hit that single to first base. You got to just bunt. get them, just live to see another day. And so with Caleb is all right. You don't have to hit the home run shot every single time. There's gonna be some passes between the hashes, the short intermediate passing game. Can you hit those consistently? If Caleb Williams is able to hit those short intermediate passes on a consistent basis, the way that Jared Goff did it for Ben Johnson, you're talking about an MVP. Because then he has something that only one quarterback in the league has in Patrick Mahomes, the ability to just make every single throw on the field and evade sacks like no other. I mean, Caleb, just the talent-wise, I mean, who was there with him? This is a mini Mahomes right here. And with Luther Burden, he's been cooking. With Colson Loveland, he's been cooking. I know beginning of the season, his usage rate wasn't like that. Folks was saying Tyler Warren is over him. Like, now it's a legit debate. Like, who would you have, Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland? And I think a lot of folks could say Colson Loveland, given the fact that he wasn't as used as much as what Tyler Warren was last season. So everything is pointing to the Bears offensively to grow. You got these young guys, Roma Dunze and DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monunga. If that offensive line stays healthy, I'm pretty sure Caleb Williams is going to be a top 3 MVP candidate next season.
I don't mind that take at all. The last guy I had here, MJ, give me Cam Ward. And honestly, straight up, it's just too early, in my opinion. I can't necessarily say I'm buying or selling, but if I'm looking purely at the talent perspective, I'm buying. He made throws last year, and I talked to professional quarterbacks who said they wowed them. It's just, again, he had his rookie mishaps. It happens. Like, you're a rookie quarterback. You're on a terrible team. You're not going to, show out and be this star in the league year one unless you're on a team that can contend. You're not going to get media attention. He didn't get any media attention, really, as a number 1 overall draft pick, which is crazy. But I will say, as a talent, I'm buying, but overall as a franchise QB, I just think it's too early, but I'm leaning yes. It's the best option the Titans are going to have, at least in the near future.
Cam Ward got to show me some more. He got to show me some more. And I'll say this, from a coaching perspective, he's in a great situation. You talk about Robert Saleh. When folks leave the Jets, they immediately get better. Robert Saleh, it was never he couldn't coach. He wasn't that guy. No, maybe it was just the Jets. You can't cure them. They are cooked. And so Robert Saleh is a damn good coach. Brian Daboll, I think he could have been a head coach for like a bottom tier team.
Definitely.
Like the Browns, something like that. Mm-hmm. But even like the Dolphins maybe. But he decides, okay, I believe in Cam Ward. Also, if we're 500, I guess you can't be 500. If we're like 8-9, 9-8, and we miss the playoffs, I could still be in line for being assistant coach of the year and getting a head coaching job. So Brian Daboll, he knows the optimism in Tennessee, the fact that Cam Ward has some talent. Again, this is a roster. They have to hit it out the park in the draft. You need to surround Cam Ward with some weapons. It's interesting because I got to buy or sell. I'm a buy for Cam Ward because of the coaching. I think the coaching will be better. I think that offensive line will be better. It wasn't even that bad last season. It's just you don't have as many skill position players as the top teams do. But if they're 9-8 and Cam Ward, puts together maybe like 20 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 3,800 yards, that's a huge win. So I'm buying because when you talk about expectations, their expectations are so low that it's almost impossible to disappoint.
And that's exactly what you want, I think. If you're Cam Ward, you're in a spot where I mean, we talked about Baker hitting rock bottom and the only place is up. It's kind of the same situation for Cam Ward, even though he did have, a decent year, I'd say, film-wise. If you truly break down the film and see some of the throws, he was phenomenal. And Brian Daboll, a guy that's, credited for the development of Josh Allen, if anybody's going to do it, I believe in him to step into Tennessee. And they get a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson who's going to help and be that security blanket, right, and help the growth and development. So as a young quarterback with talent, I'm buying. Again, it's going to be tough to completely buy in on this guy until he's got a decent team. But I have seen the talent, and at this point, I like it. I like what I've seen.